Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the RENNSPORT community event here today with the GT3X class, which includes the Porsche 911 GT3R RENNSPORT. We are here at Fuji, and it's going to be a very interesting race because there's a lot of unknowns here for us today. And with us I of course mean myself and Tim Ireland, who is helping me out today again.
Hello. Yep, it's me. Hello, Twitch people and Lena. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's the GT3X, which I don't think we've made public before. We have cast a couple of races with it in, but up to now it's been limited to the founders. And we've got a few new names in the drivers list, so a lot of unknowns going on.
Yeah, as you said, it's the first time that you can actually experience this car for free, which you can still do until Wednesday. So if you haven't yet, make sure to do it because it's a lot of fun. It's a very great car. And yeah, it's going to be unknown territory for a lot of people because we haven't raced this car in quite a while on any special events. We have a 45-minute race here today, which is something most people will be used to from the RCL leagues. But of course, it always brings in a different variable with a different car. And the GT3X, while looking similar to a GT3, it does have its very own characteristic. More downforce, more power, and a very nice feature as well, which we'll get to talk about more later on. But it's not your ordinary GT3.
No, it's a bit of a GT3 plus, I suppose you could say. Not quite a GT2, but a bit more than a GT3. A bit like a GTE if you're a bit more old school, but with ABS and TC. It's pretty quick, a little bit quicker than a GT3, as you'll see from the lap times. And it's a lot of fun to drive. I really enjoy driving it. I was a bit skeptical about it when we first heard about it, but it definitely converted me with its driving experience.
It is a GT3 at heart, of course, but just like the AMG GT3X, which you might have seen crushing some records in recent times, the Porsche GT3R RENNSPORT is a very, very... what happens when you push a GT3 to the absolute limits? Basically what they did with the 919 Evo, just on basis of the GT3R. With the result being a very beautiful and very nicely driving car. But we are not here to drive it today, we are here today to talk about people driving it, and they are putting in their first lap times in qualifying. Kimi Hapler setting the fastest lap for the moment with 36.001, and that must itch a bit to be missing the 35s by 1000.
Yeah, I always find it really annoying. I know you're a fan of a 000 number, but even that, I'm like, oh, so close.
Meanwhile, Sven Gehlhut is back here today, and he's putting in a 35.181. He's definitely the favorite going into this race. He has been the fastest driver on the leaderboard with this car throughout the week, and it seems like he's just having the edge over the competition, but we still have Kimi Hapler, Alizar, Ronan Hood, and Enrico Bräuninger to say maybe a different word in the matter.
Yeah, this has been our combination for this week's time trial, and Sven has been putting some pretty decent times in for the time trial there, so everyone will have a pretty good idea of the kind of pace he's running. Everyone a little bit shy right now, but a race isn't a time trial, so you never know what's going to happen there.
This here is where it's get really tricky. You have the uphill braking zones while you have to turn the car, and that with a rear engine Porsche. You know how tricky they can be through some corners, but this really amplifies it by a lot. And it can be very easy to lose the Wii, especially on lower TC levels. So I'm not even sure if everybody decides to keep it at TC 0 for this one throughout the race. It's something that we see with the pros a lot in the GT3s, but this car is different.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what kind of settings people are going to be running with this. Although I've driven it a fair bit, I am by no means quick, so I can't use my experience to judge what the quick guys are going to be doing here. TC0 I know is generally what people use in GT3s, and I am not good enough to do that.
Well, for qualifying, I think at least the top 5 drivers we see here do use TC0. Car lets you do it, gives you a good feel for what grip levels the car have, but in the race can very easily overcook the tires by doing so. You have more power and a lot more wheel spin if you are not cautious, even though you can recover from it, which is very good with the new Evo tire model that this car received alongside the GT3s and the M2. But if you're watching this, we've recently implemented a new feature, which is pretty cool in my opinion. While watching the stream every 6 minutes, you will receive 10 REN points, which you can always check by typing in ! points. And with those you can do quite a lot of stuff. You can duel people, you can put in ! slots or ! roulette and enter value. If you want to see a whole list of what commands there are, just type in ! commands. And especially leading up to EWC, we might run some competitions you can enter with those. So make sure to stay on board with us here to collect some points. And of course, the Iron Dames livery drop is also still active. Probably see one more lap by everyone in this qualifying session, because there's still a bit over 2 minutes to go with the 1:34 lap time set by Sven Gehrt. That easily leaves some space to do another lap. But he's also getting closer to his time trial lap.
Yeah, he's dropped into the 34s, which is what he was doing in time trials. Kimi Harpler's made a fairly decent improvement there, because he's got into the mid-35s. Ali Zahir's not far behind him.
Catherine Daniels also back for this event after her, I think, debut last week. And also again with NGSRT. So I think what we've seen last time around at Monza in the GT3s could be a very good contender for the higher midfield, which is also where we currently see Gok Polassa, who we haven't seen in quite some time. Currently in the pits, so he's ended his qualifying session essentially. So even in the midfield, I think we will see quite a lot of fighting.
Yeah, the midfield does tend to be where we see the fighting. And we've got a few new people and a few new names, or newer people and some new names in there. So I'm looking forward to seeing some good scrappy fighting, but keeping it clean. Always keep it clean, people.
Enrico Buonia improved to 5th in front of Matteo Marinetti, who is also new and has put in a very respectable 37.06, which right now puts him 6th on the grid. We still wait for some people to crash to finish their lap times. Sven Gehrt does have an invalid lap time, but Ali Zaya is still on a lap, but it doesn't seem like it will be an improvement. Too much time lost in the second sector. Brandon Hood as well, sector 2, must have had a big mistake there. And this is the end of this qualifying session. So we have Sven Gehrt and Kimi Harpler on the front row, followed by Ali Zaya and Brandon Hood. Then it's Enrico Boeniger and Matteo Marinetti in front of Catherine Daniels and Gok Polassa to close out the top 8 And his codes are starting from 10th. Maybe attempting another comeback drive, I think you could say. It wouldn't be the first time we see it from him, though.
No, very true.
What do you expect going into turn 1? Do you think people will take it a bit more cautious, or do you think they will blast out of the gates?
I think with it being a bit of an unfamiliar car, there's a fair chance people will perhaps do some unsavory moves, just not really knowing what to expect. There might be some unintentional shenanigans. I'd like to think there won't be any intentional shenanigans. But that should be more towards the back of the field. Hopefully the front of the field will be nice and clean.
Well, we do have a rolling start for this race, which makes things a bit different, of course, to what we usually see with the standing starts. Might be a bit safer with the power this car has as well, though. But it
does look impressive having them all on the grid.
It does, and we see plenty of different colors with the headlights, which is one of the key features of this car, which we will, I think, talk about later on. But for now, it will be Sven Gerhard and Kimi Harpler leading them to the green. It's side by side until the light goes out. The green light you see right here is from the cars, not from the light, but now we go green and towards turn 1. 22 Porsche 911 GT3R RENNSPORTs. And I think that's Ronan Hood making a move. A little bit of a bump between Alizaya and Enrico Breuninger. There's a little bit of contact there for Ronan Hood. And Alizaya not too happy as it seems. Sven Gerhard with a dream start. And Enrico Breuninger has to back off behind Matteo Maninetti, who immediately takes back that 5th place that he lost out on in qualifying. And Alizaya just went right through 100R, forfeiting position number 4 as well. Further side-by-side fights just behind. That was Gok Polassa against Catherine Daniels. Gok Polassa in the diamond liveried Porsche. Up front, 5/10 between Sven Gerhard and Kimi Harpler. Side-by-side again for P4 between Alizaya and Matteo Maninetti. Enrico Breuninger behind, just watching. There's one car off in the background. And still hanging on the outside. Very risky to go side-by-side here. Oh, but Matteo Maninetti just slightly lost the rear into the left-hander. And up into 4th, Alizaya goes again. So not much change in terms of order after that first lap, but not due to a lack of overtakes.
No, there's that was quite a lot of action for no result. Overall, I mean, but good to see. It was pretty clean in general. So well done to everyone for doing that.
Maninetti again having a look on the inside. Alizaya with the better exit though. In the background we can see one car going off. I think that might have been Dennis Kurzer.
It was indeed Dennis Kurzer.
Seemed like it was just a spin though. 1.3 seconds up front. Oh, but Maninetti goes wide and Enrico Breuninger just takes the position. Says thank you very much and up into 4th. Now chasing the lead pack, perhaps. Piotr Zadai also making some move, now up into P11. Fighting behind Baraka against OG Stan, who's also coming from far way down. And there's contact. But OG Stan can get past Gerardo Bereke. Maybe a bit helped by the contact between Bereke and Jurgis. And Enrico Bräuninger right behind the lapped car. Not quite sure what that is. So one of the drivers definitely not having a great start to the race. Catherine Daniels 2 positions up from her qualifying position. Oh, but losing the wheel going into turn 1 keeps it pointed somewhat in the right direction. Only loses position to Gok Polassa. But Sven Gehrt taking control of this race very early. I think now is also a bit the time for people to just set into their rhythms. Enrico Bräuninger still chasing Matteo Maninetti. So these two will probably have a bit of a longer fight, seeing how they traded positions about 4 times by now. Piotr Zadaibe and Sasha Andrich getting closer to Gigi Gaybridge, but he's spinning and that compromised Piotr Zadaibe. And now we go too wide into the final turn, as it seems. Make that 3 wide. It's complete chaos here in the mid-pack. People fighting for every inch they can find. And now going too wide. 4P9 and too wide. 4P12. Nearly 3 wide. Into turn 1. Oh, and Piotr Zadaibe being just pinched by the 2 cars around him. Nothing he could do. It's something that we've seen in Daytona in RCL quite some time ago. But nothing he could have done there. Let's get back to the fight for P4. Enrico Bräuninger trying to find a good setup to get past Maninetti. But doesn't seem to be that easy. Lots of track limit infractions at the moment, as it seems. Oh, and there's the 22 in a very unfortunate position. Cost Enrico Bräuninger a lot of time. Kimi Hapler not able to go quite the pace of Sven Gehrt. He talked about it in Discord before, and a big drift there into the left-hander. But he talked about it before on Discord, and it seems to just show itself here right now. But he's also building a more than 5-second gap to Rohan Den Hoed. So Sven Gehrt is a bit of a different caliber right now, but Kimi Hapler's pace is far off, or not far off anything in that sense. I wouldn't say far off being bad, but it doesn't really make sense to say that, does it?
No, I mean, he's still doing respectable lap times. I don't think you can say Kimmy's bad.
Exactly.
But Sven is very, very good.
So the gap between the two up to 6.5 seconds, and another 3 seconds to Matteo Maninetti. Kimi Hapler, very easy to spot on the track with those red headlights because he's the only one using those. The two FDRT drivers of Breuninger and Ronin Hood opting for the green light. I really like that feature about the car that you can just change headlight color.
It's really spooky in the dark. Because it is like the entire headlight, even on high beams. So, like, if you're going through some of the tighter sections of the Nürburgring, then
Well, you might as well just think that when you have the RENNSPORT behind you and it has red high beams on at night, that the blood moon is rising or something. Because it is still very bright. But yeah, it is a very cool feature. And especially even in the daytime, it makes itself very visible and allows us to distinguish a few people. Kimi Hapler drafting off Alizai, I think, there, who had a bigger crash earlier on. That's why he's a lap down. And
yeah, he had a bit of a contact with Gokpo Lasser, I think it was, and hit a wall, and one of his wheels came off. So there's not a lot you can do about that, to be honest.
it's definitely a good job by the mechanics then to get that fixed. Gerardo Guerreca in 9th. So made up a few positions, and Enrico Breuninger's back within about half a second to the cars in front. But it always seems like Maninetti is going too wide into the hairpin, but he somehow keeps enough momentum to make it work. So these two opting for very, very different lines, but somehow Breuninger is not able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. He does just, I don't know whether he just carries a little bit more extra speed and means that Enrico can't find a way around or what, but it seems to work for him, and that's all that counts, I suppose.
What you can really beautifully see on that white canvas of the rear end from Maninetti is that green reflecting headlight of Enrico Breuninger. But now in slipstream, Maninetti also gets slipstream from Alizai though. So it could help him. Oh, and I think that was a bit of retaliation there from Alizai, which I'm not sure I would approve of.
No.
Sasha Unrich also seems to have dropped down quite a bit. He's down to 11th. I think he was up into 9th at some point. Gap to the front, nearing close to 10 seconds. With about a third of the distance covered. You know, we have a question whether RENNSPORT will come out for smartphones, and I'm sorry to say it, but that is quite impossible to do. So no, RENNSPORT won't come out for smartphone, but of course, with the release later this year on console, Xbox Series X and S, as well as PlayStation 5, you have more options to experience RENNSPORT than purely on PC. Dennis Kurzer, after his spin in turn 1, up to 12th. So not quite able to keep it out of trouble this time around, but at least able to recover from it.
Yeah, it's the Dennis Kurzer doing Dennis Kurzer things, to be honest. He's had a bit of an incident at the beginning, but he's slowly sneaking his way back up the field, as he does tend to do.
What I found very interesting so far this race is how the race is not necessarily against other drivers, but mostly against their own car.
Yeah, I think with it being a car that people don't have as much experience with, it's always a bit weird going into a different car, and it can be the case where you're trying to push too hard and you're not really sure where the limits are in a race situation, and the car can become your greatest obstacle.
The thing about the 911 RENNSPORT, of course, is it's very drivable, I'd say. It tells you a lot about what is happening, gives you a lot of feedback, and of course you have TC and ABS to help you out. But in the end, it's still, you could say a monster, but it is a GT3 on steroids, I think. That is how you could put it. And you won't really get that out of the car no matter how many driving aids and assists you have.
Yeah, it still needs some respect to drive it, even though it does have driving aids. Driving aids don't make up for a lack of skill; they just help you a bit. So it's not the easiest car to drive, that's for sure, but it's definitely not undrivable.
And, I mean, in the end, it's also still a Porsche, and we talked about it a lot yesterday with the P-Cups at the Nordschleife. A Porsche is a very different car. There's contact between Andrich and... That was... No, it wasn't OG Stan. It was Dennis Kurzer, and OG Stan slipped through. Fair from Sasha Andrich to wait there for Dennis Kurzer to rejoin the track, but not a great race so far for Dennis Kurzer in terms of his luck.
No, or his bodywork mechanic. He's definitely got a few panels that will need a little beating after this race.
Well, at least there are no mirrors to lose, because of course this car doesn't have any mirrors.
That's very true.
But yeah, the difference between the normal GT3R and the GT3R RENNSPORT, of course, apart from the obvious aerodynamics, mainly also come down to the engine, because this car has unrestricted 620 horsepower at over 9,000 RPM. So it is even more of a screamer than most other Porsches, but it does that with a lot of power for a naturally aspirated engine.
Yeah, it does sound fantastic. I do love the sound of a Porsche engine, even inside it, as much as it gives me tinnitus.
I don't see the problem there.
It's an acquired taste. Some people don't like the sound of Porsches from the inside. There's a lot of transmission noise going on.
Meanwhile, Sasha Andrich now finding a way around Dennis Kurzer without contact, and he's tried the up and under. He tried to lure Dennis Kurzer into misbreaking a bit, but Dennis is not giving in. Now down the inside. Tries Undrich. Can he make it work though? Dunlop is a very great complex for this side-of-side racing. Going into turn 13 now. Can Dennis Kurzer keep it around the outside? Yes, he does. Fight still keeps on going. Oh, but Dennis Kurzer loses the end and nearly catches it.
It was so close there. I thought he was going to hold it for a second.
But nice fight between the two of them nonetheless. But going into Net's corner, it's super, super tricky on every level. Keeping it as planted as Svengeru just did here is a big task. You lose so much downforce while braking and in general grip on the rear end that the rear just steps out. Gokpolasa also again closer to Catherine Daniels for P6.
Yeah, the gap between those has been closing up a little bit over the last few laps. Gokpo hasn't had a chance to make any kind of move yet.
But what you could see there again was through Net's corner, Gokpo just went a bit wider and lost 3/10 immediately. It's very punishing. It seems like Gokpolasa is the stronger driver through the first sector. That's where he mostly gains his time back.
Yeah, it's not like a massive pace difference between these two, so I think making a move is going to be tricky. But Gokpo is slightly faster.
Where making the move is difficult, and then keeping the position is even more difficult, as we've seen with Enrico Breuninger at the start of the race. OG Stan is also closing in on Piotr Zadalbe for the top 10 positions. Has some damage to the rear right bumper of OG Stan, but seems to not really slow him down. And Gokpolasa now with a good chance, because he had a much better exit out of Panasonic in the slipstream. It's a very good setup to make a move into turn 1. Now it's only the question, where does Catherine Daniels defend? She leaves the inside open. And Gokpolasa is clearing her pretty much before the braking zone. Just has to get it stopped in time. And he does, with a very good move into P6.
Yeah, that was a good clean move. There was always quite a lot of clearance between those cars there. They were never particularly close to each other.
OG Stan also making the pretty much exact same move into turn 1. It was, yeah, pretty much exactly the same move. There was virtually no difference between the two of them. But Catherine Daniels with the stronger Sector 3 in the last few laps. Maybe able to take a shot at P6 into turn 1 again. With a good exit out of the next 2 turns.
Yeah, she can stay here. She's got a good slipstream.
can see the two cars are driving very different lines, and that also has to do with dirty air a lot, because through those turns you don't really want to lose any more downforce than you already have, and Catherine Daniels is a bit further away than Gog Polassa, who is going to the inside, but due to that very, very long straight, she could still make a move into turn 1.
Yeah, as long as you can pick up enough overspeed.
Oh, Gog Polassa's going wide though.
Hasn't made the overtake, but the gap has closed right up there. Just got to be careful, like you said, about the dirty air.
We've talked about confidence yesterday, and I think this is also a big part of how confident you are you can stay with the driver in front of you. That you don't need to be desperate to make a move. If Catherine Daniels knows, yeah, I can always get close to Gokpo into the third sector, where it's really crucial with the main straight, then she doesn't need to push an overtake. Now there's a bit of a bigger gap to the cars in front, which she's probably not going to catch anyway. But they also have a 12-second gap to the car behind. They are pretty much isolated in their fight. And now Catherine Daniels with the much better turn 15 compared to Gog Polassa.
Yeah, Gogpo had a bit of a shaky exit from the turn there as well. Catherine Daniels starting to close the gap up as the error really starts to ramp up.
And
But
this
they've not got long of the straight left.
they went into turn 1 side by side, but still Gog Polassa managed to exit on top. But I bet she knows she's faster. I bet she is feeling comfortable with the car to do moves like this. She's not risking anything. She's just basically every lap putting the pressure onto Gog Polassa, hoping either that one move will eventually stick or that Gog Polassa made a mistake, like he did last lap into turn 1, going a bit wide.
Yeah, the way she's driving seems very kind of in control and calm. It's not accidental. She's doing everything deliberately. So yeah, it's kind of a matter of just biding your time and waiting for the chance to come.
Going for a wider line this time. Won't be close enough for a move. And actually lost quite a lot of time through that last Panasonic turn.
Yeah, that's going to rob her of the slipstream down the main straight, which is a big thing. It might be Gogpo's chance to start extending the gap between the two of them.
Oh, and too hot into turn 1. Not the first time we've seen that, but this is losing her a lot of time now. But she still has 20 minutes, or nearly 20 minutes, to make up the time. Doesn't have to worry about anything else. These two are in their own world for this race.
Yeah, they've got plenty of space around them, so they don't have to worry too much about anyone coming in and interfering.
We are being accused of cursing as well. Maybe true, maybe not. We shall find out later on. Sven Gehört, a 17.7 second lead after 27 minutes of driving. We have not seen Sven Gehlert and Maximilian Dehn share the same track, have we?
I don't know if we have. They always seem to turn up on days where the other one isn't racing.
Smurf account? Who knows? But Kimi Hapler as well, you gotta give it to him an 18-second lead to Rohan than Hood. And I think Rohan is more accustomed to a Porsche GT3, I would just say, than Kimi Hapler we usually see in a BMW.
Yeah, Rowan seems to be carrying a little bit of damage, I think. So I wonder if that's affecting his performance at all. I'm not sure.
Bit of a fight for P9 OG Stan against Gerardo Breck, who also got past Piotr Zadaibe.
Yeah, OG Stan just sneaked past into turn one, as seems to be the way right now. All the cool kids are doing it.
I wonder if there's someone, or at least a group of people, who dislike the rear right quarter panel of the Porsches. Because I see multiple cars with the exact same kind of damage on the rear right end of the bumper.
And some of the Porsche letters on the back stopped working. Because they're illuminated, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed. But Gerardo Baker also has some damage on the front left, so I wonder if that corresponds with the rear right damage of OG Stan, but who knows? We certainly
Maybe.
don't. But they are also closing in on the Porsche car in front.
Yeah, I wonder if Gerardo Brescia is going to just try to hold on here and join in the fight. Because he can quite easily make it a three-way battle.
If you decided to work together with another driver, you could bump draft. The strong or the very long straight at Fuji offering a very good opportunity to do so.
That's very true.
And especially with a high downforce car like the 911 RENNSPORT, you do gain quite a lot with it.
Yeah, some cars are easier to bump draft than others. Not all cars bump draft equal. And the Porsche is a bit tricky because of its kind of like rounded nose. But it's not too bad.
And the gains on this car, of course, are a lot more significant than in other classes, since you have a lot more drag. With more downforce, or at least over body downforce, comes more drag. Therefore, it does slow you down more on the straights. This car does have more power than the regular GT3R, but it doesn't have too much of a top speed advantage compared to it, which of course ties back to the downforce and the coefficient of drag. Because the underbody isn't...
You have to be...
Yeah.
You have to be kind of a blind man to miss that gigantic wing at the back. It is the size of a picnic bench. It's huge.
But it doesn't have mirrors, so... Maybe that evens it out.
I'm not too sure it does. But
Probably not.
I guess if Porsche is willing to lend me one, I can find out.
OG Stan now trying to go for 8th place. Shadow Breaker dropped down quite significantly in the last few laps, which is kind of surprising in a way.
And Gogpo Latta losing position to Catherine Daniels, according to the leaderboard.
Indeed. And quite a lot of time as well. 6 seconds now the gap. Sven Gehlhut also involved in this now because he's putting a lap on these cars. we've seen a very big brain move last time out at Monza, involving lapped cars. Do you think OG Stan maybe
Yeah.
has seen what Alizaya did there and is doing the same to get up into 8th?
I don't know. It would be a sensible option for sure.
Maybe he doesn't need it though, because he's going for the inside into turn 1. He has the overspeed, just has to get it stopped in time. There's a bit of contact, but nothing dramatic. Keeps the number 7 locked and loses it on the power. That was not because of contact, he just lost it on the power. Now he goes side by side into the Coca-Cola corner and has to forfeit the position once more.
And being Sven, seeing that up ahead of you, that's got to be slightly worrying.
But the last thing you want to happen is definitely a car getting in your way. Not in the sense of losing your time, but literally spinning into your way or being stationary otherwise in a way that you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But he's through. Kimi Harpla does have quite some time to the guys in front still. And it's the same game now for these two as with Catherine Daniels and Gokpolasa a bit earlier. Oh, and Odi Stan on the grass with 2 wheels. Bit of contact
Going
as he
full Kevin extra on the overtake.
I think he should be clear going into turn 1.
He is right now.
Going wide. And he's clear now. But he didn't...
Let's see if he can make it stick.
Oh, going very wide there. The number 7. But OG Stan not taking any prisoners there. If it takes 2 wheels on the grass to pass, then he's going to do it.
That was a ballsy move.
I knew we were gonna say that, to be honest.
Well, it was.
It really was, yeah. Oh, but it looked like he lost the car, but I'm not quite sure. Or is then now back down into 9th, but...
The other car waited.
Gerardo Bereca now up into 8th. That's how quickly it goes.
Yeah. Not too much of a gap to Gerardo Bereca, though, so I don't think it'll take OG Stan long before that battle commences.
Catherine Daniels, meanwhile, 6 seconds clear of Gokpolasa. So that fight has disintegrated a bit. Oh, Odyssean missing his braking point big time into turn 1, going very wide and losing 1.5 seconds. And Kimi Harpla is just behind them. And Gokpolasa is in big trouble. He has lost the front end of his car. Just had a yellow in turn 8, so that must have been him. Now the question is, can he keep the car going like this for another 8 minutes, or does he have to come into the pits for repairs? 8 seconds the gap to Bereca. Bräuninger again a bit in no man's land. Same goes for Rondon Hood, who was in no man's land throughout the whole race, pretty much. He's picked up some damage, though. The front left headlight being non-functional has been there for quite a while, pretty early in the race, but there's some more to his left-hand side door that wasn't there before, as just right now the front left headlight doesn't work again, but bit of a loose connection maybe. Or do you stand back within 7/10 of Baraka? But again, going wide. I think he's getting a bit too egregious with certain moves. Maybe egregious isn't the right word, but too desperate to close in. And he still has 5 minutes to go. It is plenty of time. Has another
just pushing a little bit too hard.
Polassa, meanwhile, has decided to stay out with the damage. Gap to the car behind about 6 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Gogpo got the damage. I was just looking back through the replay. They lost the position to Catherine Daniels by spinning into the hairpin and ending up kind of perpendicular to the track, facing backwards. So it was a bit of a 3-point maneuver to get going again.
Not sure if that's the side that Kimi Harper wants to see right now. 2 battle-bruised Porsche 911s fighting it out, but Otistan let him through quite easily there. Next one up the road, Gerardo Bareke, who now has a bit of a gap to Otistan, so he can take it easy with letting Kimi through.
Isn't choosing to, though.
Question is now the opportunities are worse to let somebody by. Does leave him the outside. I think
kind of made it work in the end.
He made it work, but he lost a lot more time than he should have.
Yeah.
In his situation, he basically now has Otistan right behind him on the straight, who he has to defend against. But if you just let Kimi through at Dunlop, he might have had a second to spare.
Yeah, and he came out of the last corner with not a lot of speed, so Otistan easy managing to pull up alongside.
Locking him out of the apex, but how much momentum Gerardo Bareke just carried through there was insane, but I think Otistan has it going into Coca-Cola. Indeed he has, and I think this time he should be able to keep 8th for good. And Bareke just runs him over. Spoken too soon. But I wouldn't say it was really intentional, but it was poorly judged.
Pretty dirty. Yeah, it was a slight clip on the outside. It was very close. He was trying to go for like a double apexing the corner, I think.
I think we have about 2 more laps to go. Of course, with the field being very spread out, I think Svengio shouldn't encounter any more traffic. car behind Kimi Hapler that should be Gokpolasa. I don't think that he will put up an unnecessary fight against his teammate at RRT.
Especially not when he's missing a bumper.
Even though he was involved in quite a lot of fights, Piotr the Diver still has a very clean car. Can't see a single scratch on it. But Sven Gehlet is about to start the final lap of the race. 1 minute and 34 left to go. Best lap of the race as well at 34.667. Of course by Sven Gehlet. Kimi Hapler doing a 35.4. One more lapping maneuver left to do for Sven Gehlet, coming out of the final turn. He's coming towards the line to take another victory here in RENNSPORT today at the RENNSPORT community event with the GT3X. Congratulations, lights to flag victory once again. And Kimi Hapler coming in a very respectable second. And then it's 30 seconds to the next car, which will be Ronan Hood and Enrico Ronia, the two FT3 drivers. I think it has been quite some time until they had such a lonely race.
Yeah, they've been it's been a bit of a lonely race kind of day. Today there seems to have been a fair amount of loneliness going on. But we did get some good little bits of action here and there.
Big drift there, exiting Panasonic, come across the line. Fifth in the end will go to Matteo Maninetti. Catherine Daniels, of course, after Gopola's spin, taking 6th. Then aforementioned Gopolaspa in 7th. But that was it for the race today. Next week we will go back to the RENNSPORT Community League with Daytona. Round number 3. So we've seen lots of chaos the last time around. We'll be looking forward to see what Daytona provides this time. It has pretty much provided everything it could provide it in the past. So let's wait and see. No R1, of course, because now we are in the build-up to EWC at the end of July. If you want more info on that, type in EWC. So, how would you round out the evening, Tim? Because I'm a bit lost for words.
I think it was kind of what we said at the beginning, really. It was a bit chaotic, some crazy action going on track. there was perhaps some unfamiliarities with the car, and yeah, I think we kind of summed it up at the beginning of the race. For once, we might have got the right call.
Yeah, I mean, people fighting with the car more than with other people. Meanwhile, we make a quick raffle to close out the inning. So if you want to win some points at the end of it, type in exclamation mark join. Lots of exclamation marks here today. But yeah, I think it pretty much was what we expected in a way with the 911 RENNSPORT. If you haven't tried it yet, I strongly hope you do, for the remainder of its time being free on the schedule until Wednesday. So the streaming marathon
Yeah.
is also coming to a bit of an end, because in the last few weeks we often had 3 streams per week. Next week we will only be here with you once, but then of course in 2 weeks we will have the 2.4-hour Nordschleife event and the RCE that follows up, which we will talk you through later on.
Yeah, we don't need to do that many streams with the 2.4 hour going on.
Very, very well. So, wishing you a great evening. If you have tomorrow's day off, which I think some countries do, then
I don't.
yeah, you don't, but I do. Enjoy that day as well. See you next time around. Until then, have a great time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.